Oh, hey y'all. As we welcome you to the Cosmic Mama Podcast, episode number 72. Because I'm so excited. This idea that came in was in this conversation around the divine masculine. Well, who is more divine masculine than Yeshua? So I knew immediately who I wanted to talk to, which I'll be excited to introduce you to here in a moment. My sweet friends, Sears and Dena Fields. Because their knowledge and breadth and wisdom, it goes way beyond mine, right? I don't know the Bible. I don't know that stuff. That's not where my knowledge and relationship with him has come from. But for these two, I thought it would be a rich and interesting conversation to just see where it wants to go today. So yeah, we're unscripted. We're always fucking unscripted in here. But in this time of year where there's lots of talk and lots of conversations, well, we want to be able to deepen in those relationships, deepen into those spaces of yin and quiet and rest and nurturing in order to remember something about ourselves that is a little bit deeper. So, shall we do what we do? Light a bowl, light a joint, light a candle. Get yourself something warm as we welcome you into the realms of the Cosmic Mama Podcast. Hey, sweet friends. Fuck, I'm glad you're here. Let me start a conversation about Jesus with lots of fucks right away. And maybe, Sarah, I will ask you to, as we get this set up and before we open sacred space, would you maybe just mention why we're going to be referring to him as Yeshua rather than Jesus?
So, in my experience, we all have our own truth, right? In my experience, as I have worked with this energy and taken the time to know the energy, I have learned that, Jesus is a man that, lived on earth at some point. And Yeshua is this energy that is sustained behind it, like an ascended master frequency as well.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. And I kind of love that idea. Like we want to get into the essence of. And Dena, would you in your very best say Yeshua for us?
Because of my beautiful Southern accent. Yeshua, right? Yeshua.
And Dena comes from this rich background that we'll get into in a little bit of what we call lovingly Jesus in the 90s. So Dena, y'all, Dena has oils that come through her hands. And I'm like, holy shit, that's a thing. So Dena's breadth and knowledge and experience of Yeshua really surpasses what I knew was possible. So this is why we're here. Shall we? And I want to invite you into the gentleness of you today. Oh, into that place in your heart that might need a little extra attention. As we open ourselves to the divine, as we invite in the essence of Yeshua. Thanks. As we anchor in our crowns, this invitation of divine Christed consciousness to be ours always. May we remember with every step what we truly are. Thanks. And if you have any triggers around the idea of Jesus, well, we're not talking about him through a church today, y'all. Inviting the purity, the innocence, the most sacred of this being, of this ascended master to be here with you now. If it feels right, you can ask him to touch and illuminate the places in your heart, the places inside of you, or more love is needed. And yeah, I did say myrrh. Where more love is needed. May you get something rich and wonderful, something so holy and pure out of today's conversation. May it enhance your own experiences of love, of peace. Oh, thanks. And if you'd like, go ahead and set an intention for what you might want some support with this season. It can just be done quietly. May we evolve through love in it. May we stay in our stillness and knowingness. May our endeavors and efforts of self-love radiate through us without a glitch, no matter what may occur. Welcome, welcome, welcome. These conversations around the divine masculine, well, they're rich because it's expanding our knowingness. It's moving us out of limitations and perceptions in order to really know what is. So Dena, I'm going to start with you and with Yeshua as a masculine aspect of divinity. Would you talk a little bit about your path to him?
Yeah, man, it's been my whole life. Oh, it's so emotional too, isn't it? It's so hard. I grew up in the South, and it was very, my dad was a preacher, very religious, very conservative. And I always questioned it, like questioned what they taught about Jesus and what the South, how the South teaches Jesus. I say that because that's my experience, right? And in my heart, some of it wasn't, it wasn't right, because Jesus is softer and brotherly, but not even in a brotherly way that we can even comprehend. Friend and lover. Man, the beauty of Jesus as a lover too. Oh, holy, holy, holy.
I didn't think we'd get into that quite so quickly, but
Here we are, right? Imagine the three of us not going there so quickly.
We go there pretty quickly.
Yeah. So, yeah, growing up in a very strict and written form of Jesus, but in my heart knowing such a beautiful character, and as it's evolved, it's been a very interesting process, I would say, as it's evolved, because of seeing him as man in my youth, and now as as a woman, it's an energy, it's not just an archetype, but it's energy, but also man. So I don't know where else to go.
No, it's good. And what I want to kind of play with is, because Sarah, I'm sure you've had these experiences too. In that questioning, there is shame. In our early exposure or teachings to him, it never quite felt right to me. It didn't make sense to me, because there was so much dogma around it, or there was so much shame that was built into it. Part of my experience knowing him better, he's like the zombie on the cross. Like, that's how he refers to the one who is up there, this dead and dying one, this one who is suffering. Never made sense to me. So Sarah, your early days to finding the true essence of him, what is that like?
Oh man. Well, similar to Dena, I grew up in the church. There every Sunday in matching outfits with my sisters. I really love flannel graph Jesus. Who doesn't love, those story times where, you can move them all around the board. And I love the music. I love the community, the experience of going to church. And I also felt like they were missing pieces. I'm sitting there every Sunday listening to this stuff that I can feel enlivening pieces of me. And yet at the same time, like there's mystery, there's more. Um, so, I went to college, kind of fell away from faith, and started my journey into adulthood, which really has been this slow journey back to, I wouldn't even say back, this journey towards finding like the full essence of that, like Christos energy, which Jesus, Yeshua are part of, but so am I. And, um, throughout adulthood, I've been served so many necessary lessons and calibrating my frequency. And, some of those lessons, of course, have come with a lot of pain. And there were definitely repeat narratives that I was noticing throughout my 20s, my 30s. So when 2020 happened, I had the opportunity, like so many of us with COVID, to get really quiet. And things in my life had been clarifying up to that point, so that I was already positioned in this space to really start to receive and to listen. And I was out at my parents' farm one day, laying in the grass, and I was going through a major relationship shift in my life and integrating all of the lessons and texture from that. And I'm laying in the grass, like just sobbing my eyes out. And I hear the birds start to call my name. And like they're whispering these different words as they fly by. Like I hear it in their wings. And I don't even know how long I was in this kind of sacred consciousness, but I was completely held in this container where I had this encounter basically with the divine. And it set me on this path of remembering that I've been going through for the last 4 years, kind of like a master's program. Obviously, there's been more lessons with that, but part of the journey, year one, Yeshua came to me for the first time as Yeshua and asked me if I trusted the universe to be my partner. And I had to break that down. First and foremost, did I trust? And like that was the first place to start, because there were so many aspects in my body that were not trusting anything external, and a lot of not trusting what was internal either. And then that concept of partner, I had to really sit with that. Like, what is true partnership? What does that look like? What does that feel like, taste like, smell like, and that was a lot about boundary work and teasing through yeses and nos. But it also very quickly, led me to two major areas of my life that needed intense focus on rebuilding trust. And I needed to, not needed, I desire and chose to explore those spaces in this last 4 years. And during year 2 of the journey, Yeshua came back to me, and we started working on healing my sacral chakra. So much of my energy throughout my life, my upbringing, had been kind of locked in that space. And so when we talk about, Jesus as lover, as I began this journey of understanding self-partnership, I got to call in that piece as well, in the sense that he was showing me how to partner with myself. Thank you for listening.
It's so good and it's so deep, and I want to thank both of you because Yeah, we're kind of jumping into some vulnerability and some sharing. So share as much as it feels right. But some things that you said that I made note of as I was listening. Mystery, miracles, and revelation is what I wrote down.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there are these decadent, delicious, fucking divine invitations that crack us out of reality. Dena, you want to talk a little bit about some of those that you had, maybe Jesus in the 90s, or anything else that feels like those moments of miracles where you're invited into the mystery and then there's a revelation, and it's a word that Dena and I talk about quite a lot. Like, please, Jesus, give me revelation when we're in really hard times.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh my gosh. So, Sarah was sort of triggering like my history with Jesus. So just to lead up to Jesus in the 90s, as my hands are already like, can y'all feel that? Woo! Oh man, Jesus in the 90s was so good, y'all. It was so foundational. And it's okay. So being raised as a preacher's daughter, I had to go to Christian college. And so we had to take, during that Christian college, we had to take a Bible course, excuse me, a Bible course every semester. And yeah, so that was sort of interesting. And then I ended up needing to go to AA. But due to some of the college stuff and, working through some of my childhood things, I was very heavily drinking and needed help. So I went to AA. AA got me sober, and then working through the steps and also in this place of sobriety, the first 6 months, or after 6 months, I should say, I'm like, what in the world is going on with me? It was emotional vomit. Like all this trauma that I had buried in my childhood was coming forward, and I needed help. So I was searching all over the place. And the way that I was raised, it was very fundamental Christian, very conservative, but there was no spirit. And my whole life, I have seen spirit. I saw spirit playing in my room. Like I could smell things that other people couldn't. I could see things. I knew the spirit realm at a very young age. I would have vivid dreams. I would see colors swirling and manifesting in my room with sacred geometry. I'm like 8 years old, y'all. So spirit has been very, very strong with me my whole life. And so then getting sober, needing help, I started getting involved with like Wicca, some more pagan, dark. It was a little darker, not that Wicca is dark, but I was going down a dark road, and things started manifesting really dark in my house. Like the realm of spirit was, and it was like, I would say low entity spirit. Would move things around in the house, like push things off the wall. I had a priest come and bless the house. It didn't help. So then I knew the priest, when he came, he was like, I can do what I can do here, but you need some support. You need to get involved in a church. You need some support here. So I knew I was at that point, and here we are getting into Jesus in the 90s. And my stuff had happened crazy in the house. And we knew, me and my best friend, my roommate, we knew that we needed to go to get involved in a church somewhere. And she had a dream about this church in downtown Nashville that was charismatic and spirit filled. And the religion that I was raised in, the rumor was that particular church was a cult. And so I was very not that religion's not a cult. We can go there at some point. But Jesus is internal, not there, right? So she had a dream to go to that church, and I was very resistant. I didn't know where I was going to go. We got up that Sunday morning. You know, I'm in the South here. Got up to get dressed to go to church. I was really not wanting to go there, but we had a dream. She had a dream, and I'm like, I don't know where else to go, so I guess I'll go with you. So that day was so life-changing. We're sitting there in church. Ooh.
Your tears are sacred, Dena. They don't need to be stopped. I mean,
and I didn't wear waterproof mascara.
You do?
Isn't this the essence of what we're doing, though? It is to know Yeshua, to know the mystery in this way. It is so deeply moving. It is so...
It's heart.
It's permeating, though, right? It's not just heart. It's something that like moves beyond, which is why we've got the tears and the chills, and it's pure spirit, babe.
Yes.
So
yes.
You won't fuck up. I mean, if you fuck up your makeup, it's fine, but your beauty cannot be denied. So let it rip.
Yes. Thank you. Yes.
Also, Dena has been fasting for 3 days in preparation for this for us. So I thank you for that. 5 days.
Yeah, today's day 5. I mean, not to, you're not supposed to tell people you're fasting, but it felt so important. Yeah, it felt really important. And so, of course, I'm so tender. I'm so tender.
Love you, tender.
I'm raw and tender. Welcome, y'all. Here we are.
It's also Sunday that we're recording this. So like that Sunday morning service in that way, it also felt that we gathered today in order to maybe heal these wounds, not only for ourselves, but for whoever might be listening to.
And also it's, I like to call it the Super Soul Smoking Sunday. I did put in the bio Jesus. So, it's a good little cannabis cry here too. My heart's really open. So, and cannabis has been such a healer also to heal of religious trauma. For me, that has been my experience. I'm so grateful for that plant medicine to speak through me, to speak to me, and to help to do a lot of healing in my heart regarding religious trauma in particular, I would say. Whoa. It's been huge. It's been huge. So I hope that goes in the podcast.
It's totally going in the podcast. I think we're going to come back to it, but I'd really like to hear where your tender heart got triggered there with coming back to that first day in church.
Thank you. So sitting there in the pew, sort of toward the back, the pastor stopped in the middle of the service and looked straight at me. This is a large congregation, like maybe 1,000 people. I don't know, maybe more than 500. I mean, it's like 2 tiers and like amphitheater. We're in downtown Nashville. And it's Jesus in the 90s. So he stops the sermon, looks straight at me, and he was like, I'm hearing those that have been, now bear with me on vocabulary and don't let this trigger, because this was Jesus in the 90s also. He was like, those that have been struggling from witchcraft. Now I was being tormented from a little bit with witchcraft, what we labeled as witchcraft, okay? That definition's different these days. So those that are struggling and have, struggling with witchcraft, I want you to come right here and let us lay hands and pray for you. And it wasn't up at the front. It was in this middle section that was right in front of where I was sitting. And I was 2 pews back from that section. I don't even, you guys know how I do sometimes. When spirit hits me, if it's a go, it's not here. It just, my body goes. it's such movement. Like I have to, it's movement. I jumped over the pew and stood there. And then I was like, oh shit, what did I just do? And next thing I knew, I was surrounded by a group of loving men and women laying hands on me and praying for me. And I was sobbing. I was set free. I was totally set free that day. So through the years, I, and also, so Jesus in the 90s, it was so beautiful. I was a youth pastor at the time, at times throughout there, part of an intercessory dance team where we would stand behind the worship team and pray, dance, and like move, and spirit would, like, once again, spirit and
I just need a moment with pray dance, because I can only imagine your sweet little moving. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's good. Thank you.
See, that's the yoga. Like my body's got to move this stuff out. And also I'm Aries. Aries is about the body too. Like we are fire. And this fire has, like, I don't have words sometimes, and it's so frustrating. I have feelings. Like I feel it in my body. And then truly meditation or cannabis has helped me to discern, and then chatting with you guys and like helping me to discern what's moving in my body, what's in there. So movement's been so important. So I would not dress up for church. I would wear a sports bra and wear athletic wear to church. And I would be in the back and I'd be warring and dancing. I mean, breaking a sweat. It was so amazing. And there were times with Jesus in the 90s where spirit would fall in church, and the pastor would get up and he would be like, hey, and I know he would be like, hey, spirit is here. We're just going to let spirit do what it needs to do. And if you need to leave, go ahead and leave, but we're going to just be here as long as spirit wants to stay, wants to fall. And spirit would fall. Like, yes, I'm talking slain in the spirit. Like you would get your hands laid on in prayer and your physical body would short circuit and you would literally pass out. Somebody would be there to catch you. And then you would be in this dream meditative state. I'm talking out of your body, not in the surrounding, and be in the high heavens, like be in the mystery. It was crazy. We would have oil drip from our hands for healing. We would see amalgam fillings change to gold. There would be gold dust in the oil. There were miracles that I witnessed happen, and it wasn't a show. Because I know in spirit, like I felt energy release from my hands in spirit. I felt the energy fall through my body to pray for someone and like them set free of smoking addiction. It was so beautiful and so interesting and so much fun and life-changing and that's when I really like started learning of the Holy Spirit, is what we call the thin, but that was Spirit of Jesus. That's so good. Okay.
Good. And what I'm also hearing is a common thread, I think, for all three of us, are these early psychic experiences. Sarah, I know how deeply gifted you are in these realms as well. So for you to be able to have that experience even more recently of like hearing and feeling, were there experiences when you were younger that, okay, hold on. I hear you guys. Sikhi, not an E. Because there is this recognition that we are priestesses of Yeshua, right? There is this recognition that we are lovers of the Magdalene equally. We didn't come into this world with any of our psychic faculties off. I can say that for the three of us. I'm sure that there's others, but Sarah, would you talk a little into that part of early mystic Sarah?
Oh, absolutely. She's one of my favorites, actually. And I spend a lot of time with 5-year-old Sarah because she's a good time. But yeah, on the moment that I hit this earth. And I remember even speaking my language throughout my childhood. My mother would correct me at times, to stop, which happened, I think, more once I got to school age. She was like, Sarah, you have to communicate using words that other people will understand. So when I rediscovered my light language as an adult, I was like, oh, I remember that. Definitely, super empathic, as like all of us are. But in a sense that like I could see someone at the grocery store, and like my heart will just get hit, or my body will get hit with a place where I can feel their energy is stuck, and it like pings off of me and I feel it. My hands also get really, really hot. I get the oil dripping, especially like if I'm working with someone, which I still am, but a therapist in my first life. Graduated like in my early 20s, and I had no idea how healing my hands were, and like the medicine that was coming forth from them. Oftentimes I would just lay my hands on a patient to be doing something like a manual technique, and my hands would be activated, and I would find like it was almost like magnets, and I would be moving that energy. And my patients would often experience these emotional releases in my presence. And of course, it's all very just sweet and sacred in that moment, when you're healing as a clinician. But then when I discovered, I could be doing that for myself, for my daughter, like laying my hands on her when she was a little girl, or even at church, like Dena was talking about those people laying hands, like I was that girl. If somebody went down front, like my hands would activate, and it was like, palms activate, must go to the front of the church, you like, and this energy would just like drop down through the crown of my head and blast out my hands. Like I would be gone for a few minutes, just like while this energy was coming through me. I've had instances of also like getting like these messages out of nowhere. And sometimes it's really inconvenient, like at a Cracker Barrel, and Spirit gives me a message, and like I will walk up to somebody and be like, hey, just got to tell you this. Thanks for listening. And then like that person will be like, oh my gosh, how did you know? And I'm like, it wasn't me.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
And I'm going to ask this too, because as one who was not in the church, I would have the same experiences. I don't think I knew about the hands part until much later. But there was never a context that it was sacred or that it was holy, right? I didn't have a church. I didn't have anyone who was talking in these ways. It was, kind of my atheist family over there running around, and me having all of the similar things that to me never felt like it had a container, that it was safe. And so, I don't know that there was a lot of shame for me because it felt too good to go into shame, right? Whatever was happening, it was way too exciting that I felt badly about it, but I had no fucking context. And so what I'm fascinated by in listening to you both is that the church gave you a place where you could be you?
Yes, and
okay, no,
not fully. Yeah. And
saying,
I grew up in a more Protestant type church that was less charismatic. So a lot of my gifting was would have been really welcomed in, more of the setting where Dena was raised.
Sorry, don't. No, I want you to go, and then I have a question. Sorry.
That the church for me, I cannot even stress enough how it saw me and saw my gifts, and they saw them more than I did. They were hidden from me, but the church really embraced and saw me like the leadership, the pastor saw me and facilitated and helped my growth and helped me to develop confidence in that, that I would, yeah, the church was extremely supportive of me, like put me in leadership and like would
explain to us what charismatic church means, because I don't know if my brain even really gets that.
It's considered like more of a spirit-filled church. It's Bible-based, but the spirit runs free in that. There may be speaking in tongues or laying on of hands. They believe in the
agree that speaking in tongues is just our light language, like it's
yes.
the same, right?
That's when I first heard that from you, because I do speak in tongues and like spoke in tongues in the 90s and Jesus in the 90s. And then there was a time where the church really like hurt me and went through a funky time, and I turned my back from church. But Jesus would keep coming up, and I still spoke in tongues during that time. And then whenever I sort of came into a more, I would even call it a new age mystical, with not necessarily Jesus in the picture. I wouldn't say I turned my back on Jesus, but I turned my back on church Jesus, what I knew. And and you in one of your podcasts, I think, or school, no, it was a podcast, had said, I may speak in a light language, which some people call speaking in tongues. And I was like, oh, that's it. That makes sense. So charismatic church, speaking in tongues, would have words of prophecy, which is what Sarah was talking about at Cracker Barrel. Like these words of knowledge would come on, like turn on, like spirit would tell you things about people. Part of that's being empathic too, and just being tuned in. But the church embraced that. A charismatic church truly embraced that.
Yeah, I just thought I was fucking schizophrenic, right? I didn't have anyone who's like, oh, this is what you're doing. And it's something like there was no holy or sacredness to the way it was coming through in my early days. So I didn't think there was much I could appreciate about church, but hearing both of y'all in some way, like it gave context and it recognized the gifts of,
Yeah. And I did get to experience that in my adult life. I lived out west for a period of time when my daughter was young, and found myself, as a single mom, looking for places where I really needed connection. And a girl that I worked with invited me to go to church with her, and it was more charismatic church, which, just nerd fact, chara, the root word, means joy in Greek. Yeah. So like, let's just no wonder, right?
She just knew that.
Yeah. So I got my
that's what I love about Sarah too. Like, and that's, she has got that gnosis, like the knowledge, which I have that Bible knowledge too, but man, Sarah breaks that down intellectually and connects it with spirit.
Because here's the thing, like, and I love the Bible, but sometimes what's written in the Bible is not what they're saying. Like, if you go to the words and like you trace them to the Hebrew, to the Greek, to the Aramaic, like it's a totally different message. And what happens is, like, when you are able to surrender to the truth, to the joy, like, you are able to soften and have that experience where you are fully, completely held, seen, heard, and are accepted as the divinity that you are, so that you can receive the fullness of Christ. That's it.
Peace out, y'all.
But yeah, I got to experience it in my adult life. Join the praise choir, y'all. Listen, I love a good microphone and a Christian song. I mean, Dena's been with me, and I will wail. That's the only time I'll do karaoke, is if I'm singing church songs.
It's so cute, as Sarah and I will sometimes like do a FaceTime on Sunday, and we'll like share some praise and worship music, because Jesus in the 90s, y'all.
Listen, light some incense, light a
Yeah.
bowl, sing about Jesus.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love, but
Yeah. But there was a woman eventually in my story that told me that my gift of prophecy was a gift and encouraged it and showed me that I could lay my hands on someone and speak a blessing over them, or just simply be a gift with my presence. And she gave me the permission to fully step into my power in a church setting. And her name was Diane. She's from Medicine Hat, Canada. So thank you, Diane. Because sometimes along the journey, like, we just need people to spark and to activate us so that we can find the way back to ourselves.
I think that's a perfect segue into these relationships that we've created with Yeshua. Not as a presence outside of, but as a presence, as an essence, as a knowing, as an embodiment within. Can we chat about that a little bit? Because I don't think any of us go to church anymore, but we all have this thing inside. And can I also tell you, like, I was the fucking kid who wanted to go to church because it was so, like, foreign to me, right? It wasn't something that was encouraged or required. And so for me, it put me into a very different, like, seeking energy of it. So I was reading the Quran and I was reading the Book of Mormon, and I was seeking the divine, and I didn't know how to find it. So how have we all found the divine spirit of Yeshua within?
I think that my entire life up to this moment has been just this beautiful weaving of my personal life and my spiritual life, doing this dance back and forth until I can come into the harmony and the flow and in that inner union. And this whole relationship with Yeshua, has been about recognizing that the universe is always conspiring to bring me into union. And the union is imminently there for each of us, but we cannot externalize it, because externalizing it is codependency. Like, on every little thing, like, we have to stop, align with the divine, and breathe and bring it internal.
Said like a true Aquarius. Bring it into breath.
Double layer, baby.
Dena, anything to add there?
I think, like with that place of, I feel like, my whole life too has been I think I came into this life, and I do feel like I chose the family that I came in through, the location, my dad being a preacher. I chose this strict dichotomy of seeing this version of Jesus. And I knew Jesus the whole time, like in a very deep, real way. And through my years, throughout my whole life, as I've evolved, as I've grown, as I've whatever, my relationship with Jesus has grown also. I know not too long ago, and I would hear these words, Christ consciousness, and I'm like, I don't even know what that means. And then also a little while ago, and it was through you too, Andy, you had talked about, Christ consciousness and a little bit about what it was. And I'm like, why is Jesus such a big deal? Why is he such a big deal? because I really love the teachings of Buddha. And I mean, I think Jesus was a Buddhist. I think the years that he was, gone, those, 13 to 33, I think he was studying with the Buddhist monks. Look at some of his teachings and comparing some of those teachings. So I even was like, well, Jesus, what's your big deal? Like, why are you such a big deal? What's up with you? Why are you around? And like, what's up? And because some of the things in the Bible they just seem really odd. Like, and no offense, y'all, but born of a virgin birth.
Excuse me.
Well, we wouldn't have two nerd conversations about that, but keep going.
Yeah, that confuses me. I mean, as it should, right? And so I'm like, are you even real? And what's the big deal? Like, why are you a big deal? You've been around for a really long time. And I do believe, this is my beliefs, this is, some of the things that I believe for me, which feels good. And I don't, you have your own, whatever. I do believe Jesus was a man that walked this earth. I do believe he was a son of God. I am too, though. I do believe Jesus obtained a mastery level of some sort, like similar to Buddha and some of the other archetypes. I do believe he had a very transcendent, very deep relationship with Creator, with Source, with the divine. And because of that, he can relate to humanity. He can relate to man. And then I have that story. I have some of those stories, but as I go into that place of truly, stories are meant to open our heart. I mean, isn't it wonderful when you read a book and you can't put it down, or when you read a statement and your whole life is completely changed, or you have one word that like softens your heart and makes you cry, or a song, that does that moves you and like continues to soften you. So diving into the words, to the parables, like Jesus would speak, and this is something I want to do so bad. I like pray that I do this. Jesus would speak in parables, his words. He would tell a story so that we could relate to it, the commoner could relate to it. But underneath that story, there's these mysteries, there's this energy, there's this technology that takes you deeper into spirit, into the divine, into that place of remembering who you are inside, that I am the divine. Jesus came to show us the way, but he had to leave so that we would learn spirit, so that we would know spirit within us. Jesus was just a picture to take us to that place within us. Okay, there we go.
I love your answer. I love, thanks. Sarah, I'm going to ask you, because I think Dena posited a really good question. Why is he such a big deal?
Because he's an integrity.
Whew.
Stands between those pillars of truth and justice. And when you know his character, of course, we have the biblical stories, but when you know the true character, the true nature, like he is the ultimate husband. Like, he is a caretaker of souls. He is a shepherd. He stands up for the injustices. He invites everyone to his table to eat. So he's love in ways that we possess in our DNA. We have the ability to meet each other in this type of love. It's 12th dimensional. It's angelic. It's beyond the body.
Well, and I go a little to law of one as well. Law of one will say that Jesus is the logos, right? He is the thought of, he is this whole world is the manifestation of. And that doesn't necessarily work when we just look at a 2,000-year history. So I'm going to ask something a little provocative, which is, before Jesus was Jesus, who was Jesus?
Energy. And yeah, we all have those fractals of that energy, that desire to create, that desire to expand, that desire to be authentic and true.
The desire to heal, the desire to set you free.
Well, the
Yes.
desire outside of the fragmentation, right? It is the desire for unity. So I know in
Yeah.
some thoughts and theories, I don't know that it's the same soul because, that's bigger than what I can comprehend in this brain. But Akhenaten would have been doing something similar, trying to bring unity, trying to bring this one idea of love into embodiment.
Well, and if you even think about Isis and Osiris, right? She's embodying 14 pieces of her husband.
That's right. That's right.
Like it's bringing all of the edges together.
It's unifying.
Mm-hmm.
So can we talk about Christ consciousness and what that means? I think we all can agree that Christ consciousness is this ability within all of us to reach Christed status, right? Christ would have been a title, not a name on anybody, just as Mary was a title and not a name on anybody. The pathway to do it, I think, if we can get to the essence of Jesus outside of biblical, because I don't have that knowledge. I don't know him in that way. I wasn't limited to stories about him. Mine was much more just direct experience. And I remember the first time he showed up, I'm like, oh, no, I'm not one of yours. Go away. And he's like, no, I'm not going anywhere. I am exactly, Magdalene came to me a little bit before he did, but it was an interesting rejection in me because I'm not one of the flock. I don't know your stories. I don't know any of that. And in that way, I was actually more perfect and more clean because I didn't have too much of that in me already.
Girl, the shepherd goes after the one and leaves the 99 behind so that he can retrieve the one.
Where were you when I needed you as my Diane?
I am here with you now, sis.
Absolutely. Yes.
It's been such an interesting journey for me in that way because it is such a living force in every piece of my reality. That doesn't always make sense because I don't have, I'm the one, not the 99. Heard. Thank you. Christed consciousness. What do we want to say about that?
Mm-hmm. That we're doing it.
This is the process of ascension.
It is, isn't it?
Well, and it's that unity, that bringing unity, uniting within the individual, but also uniting as a collective. It's very unifying. And in that place of unifying it's love, it's from a pillar of love.
Ooh. I'm writing some notes because that's so good, Dena, right? But this idea of Christ consciousness, if we want to just kind of play with what we're saying here, it is a collective that is moving through heart. It is a collective that is moved by spirit.
Mm-hmm.
It is recognizing and embodying the divinity that we are and knowing nothing to be outside of ourselves.
It's that ankh, right? So we draw the energy up, we run it through the bridge of heart, up over, back through, and out to the world.
Yeah.
We did a little bit of that activated Ankh a couple of episodes ago. The activated Ankh, the cross that is trapped, and this is the Matthias teaching, in that very masculine structure, right? The cross doesn't have any energy to it, but with that loop of the Ankh that allows us to touch into spirit, that allows us to activate this thing and not be trapped in the logos or the program or in the matrix of. I think it's moving us beyond time as well.
Well, and then I agree totally, but I want to also come like with that symbolism also. And where does I had this conversation with both of you guys, this whole revelation not too long ago, and this is so related. Where, like, whenever you hear truth, whenever you hear a story that resonates within you, where does that truth reside in you, and what does that feel like? Like I was, exploring this, and I was feeling it in my heart, but also feeling it in my sacral and solar plexus, like sort of right through there. I'm like, I sort of feel it there, but it feels similar to love, but love can be bubbly and floaty and flighty and like dreamy and watery. But truth feels more pillar. It feels like an anchor. It feels solid.
Differently.
It lands differently, but it has and it's like my center column, it's this anchor. And truth is to be, and we can get caught up in truth with religion, right? We all have our own narratives of truth, but I'm talking truth. Come back to that center point of truth within you personally. Where does that land?
Well, and that idea of that truth that is within us being activated by divine, by spirit, well, is that the path to Christ consciousness then? Is that the path to our enlightenment and remembering our way home?
Yes. And then if we don't speak that, or if we don't take that truth through the filter of heart, through the filter of love, if we just rely on truth, without love, you're a clinging symbol, right?
That's right.
If you don't take that truth through love, and it looks different, it can look different to all of us. But that's the point of the Christ consciousness, is to clear and to unify and to help you remember true love. So take your truth through love. If you don't take your love, what's that?
To become love.
Yeah.
To radiate love. To be a pillar of love. To be moved by love.
Yes. And if you don't take it through that love, the juiciness of love, the bubbleness of love, the lightness of love, the freeness of love, if you don't take that truth through love, it looks like judgment. Truth in and of itself can look like judgment. So Christ consciousness is to unify us, to take truth through love, right? Okay.
Speak the truth in love, girl.
Yes.
I'm gonna turn that love up to 11 now, because we have talked a little bit. I'll just own for myself, like, I know I'm sex priestess, and I know that Jesus went through the sex temples, and I know Magdalene and Mary were initiated in things beyond. Okay, let's go there though. But let's go ahead and talk about, I don't have an experience of Jesus as lover. That's not how he appears to me. It's much more brother. It's much more love. It's much more that divine masculine who is protector and say. He always feels like big brother to me, and it's funny because I had a dream about him Of course, I had a dream about him last night as we're getting ready for this. It was in Santa Fe. It was fucking beautiful.
Oh, I love that so much. That's incredible.
Yeah, I woke up this morning. I was like, "Oh, is that how we're gonna kick off today?" Of course it is. But Can we talk about Jesus' lover? Can y'all talk about Jesus' lover? I don't have much to contribute there.
Oh, girl, yeah, I can. Oh, yes, I can. Woo! Yeah. Yeah, let me go there. Let me go there a second. So I'm going to give you a little history. I'm going to try to do a swift history. Growing up in religious, conservative Southern background, I, among several of my girlfriends, were sexually abused. And a lot of us had a lot of sexual trauma, a lot of sexual trauma. And that was part of the healing in my sobriety also. Like, that is the truth of that came forward. I had been burying that through alcohol, and getting sober is what brought that up, and I needed help. And so Jesus came in. And so then through that healing and Jesus in the 90s, I chose, I can do some crazy things like fast for several days. Like, that's just the Aries warrior in me. I don't know. So during Jesus in the 90s, I was celibate purposely for 13 years. And through that time, I was doing a lot of sexual healing. And Jesus showed up in that place because I was celibate. There was a time when I did, because of the healing, I had no sexual desire. That wasn't turned on for a while. And so it was me and Jesus became my lover. And due to sexual trauma, the sexuality part was not there yet at that point. So then, when the healing started taking place, and also my sexuality started healing, Jesus totally showed up. And then throughout certain partnerships and relationships, Jesus has even, been a part of those sacred partnerships and has been really beautiful. It's been very beautiful. And then right at this present moment, I am single, and a woman in her 50s. I would say at 40, your hormones really change, and something happens, man. And sexually, you just awaken. And Jesus has been a very beautiful part of my sexual healing, but also connecting sexually with Jesus has taken me spiritually in a whole new place. So God bless the partner that is coming in. I mean, that's all. Yeah. So,
God bless these men who will be able to embody it for us, and that all of these priestesses get back to their divine work.
May it be so.
May it be so.
May it be so. It's interesting being in my 50s. I'm 54. And the hormone changes, the peaks and the valleys during this time. And I still menstruate. And some of that I'm okay for. So my partner needs to have had a vasectomy, not a recent one, but God, I love a vasectomy.
I'm straight, sis.
Oh, so I know this past, for sure a year has been very vivid sexually and spiritually with Jesus, and it's in such preparation for for partnership with me, for sacred partnership. It's so important. And I've always been wired in this, spiritual way, and everything needs, for me, that's like leads back to spirit. Like I can't settle for anything less than that. It's what makes me so unique. I had someone say at one point that I was like heavy whipping cream. You either really love the deep richness, butteriness of it, and you can really love it, or it's too much for some people and their body can't digest it and can't handle it. So, it is what it is. So spirituality, that oozy goozy spiritual, is just everything to me. It's in my work. It's in my everyday life. It's in my relationships. It's
the thread that is what we've all come together around too, right? We do, in many ways. I know the three of us, and our other priestesses, we put spirituality first, and it's not at the exclusion of life. It's to bring that spirituality into every facet of life, because it is the most important thing.
That's why I love you girls so much. Because I'm wired like that, and then you are too. And it's just so stimulating and telling, and it takes us deeper. And because we continue to hold each other, not just accountable, that's not the right word, but we fan the flames, we fan the flames of each other, and it keeps us growing and evolving. And it's just so fiery to me. And I'm so, so, so grateful for the community, Andy, in particular, that you really have brought together. I'm just blown away with this time in my life of my community, my spirit community that I have. It has fed me, and I've grown so much from this.
Maybe someday we'll match Jesus in the 90s, but
no, that's the thing. That's the evolution. It's actually, I want to say, better than Jesus in the 90s, because I needed Jesus in the 90s for this, for us now. Yeah.
Right. We integrate those lessons so that we can create something new.
Yeah.
We know what is possible, so we can pull it forward.
Sarah, I am so ready to listen in such sweet delights to Jesus as lover for you.
Oh, man. Well, it's been a journey that's mostly been about learning about what are all of those aspects of lover pre-sexual, like before penetration occurs. And, that walk has been mostly done through celibacy as well. For the last 20 years, like there's been occasional relationships here and there, like the test kitchen where you get to apply what you've learned and see how you're doing. I would be voted off British Bake probably relatively quickly. It's more like nailed it at my house, but we eat well. But again, like during these last 4 years, I was very intentional about healing those pieces in me, mostly because I want to be whole and wholly able to show up in a relationship the next time that I enter into one. So just like hearing his voice and saying, do you trust me to be your partner? Part of that exploration also led me into reclaiming what was safe physical touch for me, knowing what I liked and what I didn't like, what kind of setup looks and makes me feel safe so that I can begin to soften. And then it was almost like intentional ceremony or prayer. where I would invite all aspects of myself to be integrated fully. And as I'm building this trust with Jesus, you know, if you can't trust God, who can you trust, right? You can't trust yourself, who can you trust? So I invite him to join me in this conversation. And as I began working, like doing de-armoring work, I just would invite him to come and sit with me and to witness. And then eventually, you know, that work again, like grew. And I had the experience of having an intimate moment with Yeshua, and it gave me the understanding of what that sacred union looks like with another person. Even though it's with a spirit, like aligning my spirit to a place where I can fully receive the spirit of another and be in unity and share that energy. It was a pretty profound experience. And since I've learned how to come into that space and like begin like working with that energy in a manifestation kind of way. You know, of course, Jesus is kind of sitting off to the side, like doing his thing, but like we'll talk like, hey, what kind of energy are we trying to bring through here today? Like what's the intention? And it becomes almost like a prayer as I lift up those most wounded pieces of me, like those spaces that just need love and touch and witness and spaciousness to be held. And I use that container and this relationship that I have built in trust to create in that space. And the universe is showing up as my partner. Like I can't even tell you, like, you know, so many of us are tiptoeing between like 1 foot in a 3D realm, 1 foot in a 5D realm, you know, like we have these split aspects of ourselves. So when I get to come into that space and be unified and to feel safe, like I'm learning to set myself free. And this relationship is teaching me where the bar is now for something new. Because I do desire to create community and love and all of these big and beautiful things. And I would love to have a sacred partner who wants to play with me.
Yeah.
Listen, I like to play.
Like to play.
I have an outdoor office. I'm making a dance party like in my garage right now. Like I need somebody who can hang with that energy.
I got a message this morning from my man, and his request was, what are you doing today? And my response was, I'm talking to my girls. You want to play? So to be met in that play, yeah, that innocence of me, that delight of me, that purity of me, that silliness of me, that childlike, it's part of my greatest attributes. It's not anything that needs to mature or season in different ways, but sexually too, like, oh, it's all play. This is so much fun.
Well, and to be able to play with someone else on that level, like will be where I gain a new set of wings. Like a man who can love me fully and allow me to fly and know that I'm faithful and will come home. Like
they'll get the best of us.
They will set me free. Like the truest love will set us both free. Because if a man can see me with the eyes that he would see the world and examine me with that sweetness and truly husband, like look that definition up, Merriam-Webster. What is a husband?
I don't know
like
what
truly
is
a husband. Like it's a caretaker. It is someone like to take care, to treat me delicately and sweetly and uplift my innocence and then play with me. Like, let's have some fun. Awesome. Let's travel. Let's do some things and let's like shake this world up.
And when you create that place of, you know, that when I feel safe when you can hold me in that
Yes.
place, that softness. And I'm a fierce woman. I'm fierce. I'm a warrior.
You're also very tender, Dena. Come on now.
I'm so tender. I'm so tender. And when you can hold me in that place of softness where I feel safe, and then we can come together. I can allow you enter the portal, because I feel safe. I allow you to come in. The things that we can create with that foundation and through sacred sexuality, the forces of, that energy, and taking that pre-orgasm, taking that energy and moving that energy in creation of male and female for me, moving that masculine and feminine through my body, through this physical body, because I am body, soul, spirit, that, and then allow the orgasm to release out of my crown, up through the divine, connecting to the divine and opening up our torrid field, going out and spreading out into the world, and then coming back down into the earth, up through my body again. What can I create in that? What can we create in that? Awesome. And to do that with the masculine and feminine side by side, I really can't. I've had glimpses of it. But Jesus actually came to me. He was in the midst of some sacred sexuality, some sex magic, as we like to say, practice. Jesus stood, he was at my feet, and he pulled a, we're just gonna go here. So he pulled like a 4-prong plug out of my womb of a former partner where it was, we needed to be over. And so Jesus was at my feet, releasing me from this. And and so I was in a place of masturbation, of moving energy through my body, sexually, and exploring my physical body, also opening the gates of the portal. And where does it, what does the right side hit? What does the left side hit? that right masculine. And, we can have orgasms all over our body too. I'm talking explosions out the heart, right, Andy?
It's not
explosions out. It's not just clitoral. It's not. We can have these cervical orgasms that, oh my God, you will cry on a cervical orgasm.
Yeah, I cried on a cervical orgasm yesterday because those are the ones where I'm like, oh, we're cleansing some.
The cervical orgasm is connected to the cosmic. That's a cosmic gate. That is a galactic gate, and that is piercing the veil. That's beyond the 7 chakras. That's beyond. Yep. So we can't help but cry. We've got to release all the fluids, right? So Jesus was at my feet, and that was when, and I'm like, oh, hey, thank you for helping me do some of the spiritual work here. And then as I looked up, Magdalene was to his side. And I'm like, oh, hey, what are you doing here? That was the first time Magdalene had ever shown up for me. And Yeshua said to me, do you want a sacred partnership in this lifetime? And I had to pause. And because I'm like, I'm fine by myself. I need a lot of alone time. I enjoy my space, So I paused for a second, and I'm like, and looked at him and said, on 2 conditions. Let's bargain with Jesus a little bit. On 2 conditions. I'm like, I think I do want sacred partnership in this lifetime, but I need 2 conditions on this. Number 1, I need you and Magdalene to mentor me I need you to bring that relationship to me. I need it to be patterned after your relationship. And so I need the two of you to, if I'm to be in, I can't have anything less. So it's been a really beautiful process of bringing Yeshua into that place of sacred sexuality and exploring the Christ consciousness, exploring the spirit of Jesus within my physical body, through orgasm, through pleasure, through creation, and even though I don't have children, I haven't used the cosmic come to create the virgin child, or have I?
Or have I?
So I haven't created a child in this physical realm, but I understand the cosmic come of creation. I really, really do. And to experience that with a partner that I'm physically attracted to, that I'm mentally attracted to, that, oh, fuck yeah.
Rings all the bells.
And, I guess there's a commonality here too that I know intellectually, but didn't really recognize until we've been talking today, is that all of us have been in intentional celibacy. That in some way, I know for me, it was an ask from Mother Mary in a mushroom ceremony. And she's like, I need 9 months. I went 3 years. Did I do good? I didn't actually listen to her the first time. Let's be real. She told me and I'm like, never mind. I can't do it. It was all divine in its rightness. But this place of sexuality, of celibacy, of reclaiming for ourselves what is divine and holy, an orgasm isn't just a physical thing for any of us.
No, that's right. That's right. And due to trauma, having sexual trauma, the healing of that is also, part of this beautiful journey. It's juicy.
Here's what I've heard from you today, Dena, that I didn't recognize before. For a daughter of the church, for a daughter of God, as you were, for a preacher's daughter, how else would we heal sexual trauma except through Jesus, who is the safest thing possible, right? There's something in that has really just landed in me today as I've witnessed. It is the right place, right? This isn't I want to fuck Jesus type of energy. This is he's going to be the first man who loves me. He's the first divine who loves me. This is, of course, where I'm going to have to do this most sincere level of healing with the safest energy I know.
Yes. To be the bride of Christ. Truly.
Sarah, keep talking. What the fuck?
The church is the bride of Christ, right? And and I mean we'll have more conversations about the symbology of bride and bridegroom at another time, but church or me as Sarah, I have been called to wait for my bridegroom. And that means that I have prepared my heart
and my pussy
for that's a whole nother podcast, probably on OnlyFans. But we are preparing ourselves for sacred marriage, for sacred union within, to call somebody else into that field so that we can co-create a new world together.
Yeah, it's not a little ask. I'd be curious, because we are getting into this bride of Jesus energy, what y'all's relationship with Magdalene is. I don't think there's any conversation about Yeshua and Christ consciousness that doesn't include Magdalene. I've I've often said of my relationship, like Magdalene comes in the room, and I'm like, oh hey girl. Mother Mary comes in, and I'm like, yes ma'am. I sit up very straight, and I become very proper. Magdalene and I are good. Mother Mary and I's relationship took longer.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I know, Dena spoke that she, had her recent encounter with her. And um, mine was, of course, like the early dance, being introduced to her um, in my youth. We always envisioned her as the whore, basically. And the reality of it is, like, especially in these last couple of years, as I've um, spent a lot of time just digging into things of interest. Like I really like Indiana Jones, right? Last Crusade is my favorite. Um, really can go hard in the paint for some Dan Brown. I really like all of those stories, and I've often had a religious curiosity about me, more towards like what is the divine feminine and how does she show up in church or not? Because that's curious, right? Um, and my first encounter with Magdalene actually was in Paris in 2016, right? I went on a trip with my sister for my birthday, and we just like happened to come into this church where they were showing a replica of the Shroud of Turin, which is the burial cloth of Jesus. And there was this gorgeous statue inside of that church that called me to her feet. And she was a Virgin Mary. And when I sat there like with her for a little bit of time, she's like, you need to spend time with Magdalene. So the rest of this trip, I'm in France, like start seeing roses everywhere, doves, all of the like the red color, just starting to welcome in all of that divine feminine frequency. So I got really curious, started researching, spent multiple years reading books about the Grail and what's the true lineage of Christ, and art history is fascinating. Like if you really want to dive deep into some imagery, like start looking into art and then like peeling back the layers. But so aside from like the educational portion of like who is this Magdalene character truly, because of course like I need to know the truth about these people that I'm reading about. I need to know the words that really are describing who they are. Well, interestingly enough, like whore means cave. It also is a holy place where women would gather. And you start again pulling on all of those threads, and you just keep getting led back to divine feminine energy, which is gorgeous. So similarly to you and your mushroom experience with Virgin Mary, I had a mushroom experience in my backyard where Mary Magdalene decided to come visit. She gave me a heart transplant. We had a little chitty chat and then started working together regularly. And by that I mean, as I was going through like a radical transformation in my life, grieving so many aspects of who I was, who I thought I was, I asked her to start just showing up to me every day in the mundane. And she did. And I started seeing the joy, that Kara, right? Going back to that charismatic in little moments. And I would take pictures of these moments. This is still pretty early COVID. And do you ever just go back and like look at your pictures and realize like all of the sparks of joy that have been given to you as gifts along the way, like just lighting your way like a runway. And so Magdalene did that with me. And when I started the sexual healing journey, I actually started with her. because I grew up not being tapped in to the sacredness of, or the knowingness of my body, my womb, my power. Um, I love my mother very, very much, and she did not have the words to teach me what it meant to become a woman. So I had a long journey on my own, kind of like the Camino, it's been like a 500-mile trek. But with Magdalene as my guide, she's placed people and teachers and books and wisdom and spaciousness into my lap that have allowed me the space to de-armor this body, this heart. And then when I got to work with both of them together, and also just have their mentorship and my ability to witness what it means to be a universal lover, what it means to love with non-attachment. Because I feel like if you think about that energy, like to be an ascended master in a relationship, like that's a lot.
It's a lot of expectations to put on, like, you need to last forever.
Right.
No.
So her friendship to me has been a lot like a sisterhood, like having a bestie, having somebody that I can ask a question to, even though like she is not separate from me. But like when I find those places in me where I'm like, I don't know where I'm going, I don't know what this is, I don't know what this feels like, I ask her just to sit with me and be with me. And so often in that space and the breath, like she leads me in the most trustworthy way. So I was able to step into her nurturing and receive from her first before I was able to fully integrate Yeshua's offerings.
It's amazing. And I love how devoted you are, Sarah, because I wasn't allowed to read anything. When she showed up 2005, I think. Wasn't allowed to read anything, and it was when Da Vinci Code was very big, and I'm like, ooh, and she's like, so my direct transmissions and experiences with her, she didn't want tainted by anything, so that I could remember my way back to her.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also, yeah, I probably wouldn't read all that you do anyway. Like, let's be real. It's not how I digest things.
A lot of it's via osmosis these days.
Isn't it though? Give me a little bit, I got the rest. Thank you.
Yeah, she gives me the Cliff's Notes and I'm grateful.
Anytime I go to a church, because I still like, I fucking love Gothic churches. I was in Montreal last summer and I'm like, ooh, like want to be in there. And I'm always seeking the divine feminine. I'm always looking for her. And it's a rather disappointing quest most of the time because she's not there. So I look forward to the days that we get to create places for her again. Where
She
she
is like, she's quietly there. And like the magnificence, especially of going into those old churches, um, is like you can tell the hands that loved her because they have put her into the walls. Like you'll see her symbolism everywhere.
The college that I went to was a Catholic university in Austin, and they had a grotto that was modeled after Lourdes. I didn't know that at the time because also at that point in time, my relationship was very much with the physical world and not the spiritual. But it was a place that I would go often, and I would sit there, and it wasn't grand, but it was enough that for me, there was also a big oak tree behind it. So, like, very holy, sacred places where I would even go in my late teens and just like peace and find that solace within. So going back there as an adult and realizing that it was modeled after Lourdes, of course it fucking was. And of course she was there for me, even when I didn't know she was there for me. At a religious university run by a Buddhist and a lesbian. So it was a very liberal Catholic university experience. There wasn't talk of the divine feminine. There wasn't an introduction to her. There wasn't an inclusion of her. which I think has created some of my trauma on my path home to myself. That I'm always seeking her in that way. Like, where the fuck is she? And the best you can do is a virgin mother? Like, oh, you guys.
Well, and that's the thing.
Well,
I feel like with church, like, and I don't want to like dog church, but that's what we know too. I feel like church, religion, a lot of times and we're experiencing this in society, right? It's the patriarch is so strong, and so you go as a female too. We go seeking for the divine in the spirit, and um and we don't find it in the church, which is very disappointing. It's very sad. um it's awful. And Magdalene, I feel, she unfortunately is quiet, but I feel that she's right. Her voice is raising, like she's raising her voice. I do think also Magdalene was mastery level also. I feel like she was called, in a mastery level. I believe Magdalene, this is my beliefs. I don't, we'll see. I feel like, I don't know. I mean, this is what I believe. With her being trained in the temple and with the mastery gifts that she had, she was chosen to help Jesus, to help Yeshua reach that place of transcendent, to be able to resurrect.
that's right.
I also love to remember about Magdalene that she was his patron, right? She was the one who came with provisions and money in order to support his vision coming through. As you're talking to Dena, what I'm hearing is, what's really sexy to me is always the mystery. Magdalene is the mystery. Magdalene is not shown. She's not visible to you. She's not, there has to be a different chosen path or a different call to her than one that is laid out for us, because most of the churches are going to be going through a Bible and one version of Jesus that needs to look like this in order for their structures and beliefs and blah, blah, blah. Magdalene is an invitation into the mystery, so that you have to know her to find her, because she's not, as Sarah said, right? There aren't devotionals to her and pictures of her and statues carved of her.
Which is, the Yeshua and Magdalene are the pictures of masculine and feminine energy.
Right.
That's just, the feminine is the one who rests and reclines, but is in authority, knowing who she is and also knowing what she can do in spirit, and she receives.
Her power is less showy. Isn't that truly?
Yeah.
Right?
It
I don't
just is.
take this action because I know and I embody and I am.
She's safe to surrender within the container of Yeshua's love.
Mm.
God, I don't want to say anything after that, Sarah. I just need to soak it in for a minute. And isn't
So,
that
like,
yeah.
yeah. So in knowing Yeshua, like, my inner Magdalene is now safe to surrender to the fullness of who I am.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, that doesn't go on OnlyFans, okay. Because it's rich other places, OnlyFans will not be.
I mean, at least it's not like feet pics or whatever,
We have had some conversations, sis. Oh, the place where everything always goes for me, right? We've got the sacred union, we've got divine union within. But the Essenes for me is where everything came to life. I have lots of memories of those series of lifetimes for myself. So I think I'd just be curious for you both as well, if there is a feel, a sense, a knowingness of the Essenes that to me holds a different vibration and a different quality before the Bible came in, before the church came in. Like, So the Essenes essentially would be leading up to the time of Jesus. They would be great mystics. They would hold the mysteries. They would live in the mysteries and in great devotion to spirit. That's always where my heart resides, but curious about you guys, where it feels for you.
Well, of course, like with the Essenes, like that framework is foundational to a lot of what I've had the opportunity to study now and to know. And to me, there's a lot of similarities as you begin to study different religions. So I can't necessarily say that I like ascribe to one past knowing because there's so many, but even just like that concept of like the light body, that like that's an Essene concept as well as a Buddhist concept, and I believe with Jesus and his resurrection, like that was a light body piece that was coming online. So
Yes.
for me, as with a lot of the other things, like I just appreciate what's been documented for me to sit with, so that I can begin to unpack that for myself.
Here's a question. Do we all, as many of us carry wounds from Atlantis? I know I carry a wound from his crucifixion. Do y'all?
I would say yes for me.
I mean, it's part of my soul trauma. Like my soul carries a trauma from that doesn't always, never actually make sense here, but like it's always here. It's something that I have to reconcile.
Yeah, I feel like I knew him, and I mean, I've known him my whole life in this lifetime. Um, but I feel like I have, because of knowing him so deeply in this lifetime and looking at my path throughout this lifetime, that's just been pictures of him in past life. Like, if I believe in past lives, I do believe that I walked with him in a past life, um, because I know him so well. I know him so well. And I love him so much. Um, and then coming into this lifetime in the South as a preacher's daughter and seeing that, the dichotomy I was talking about too. And then knowing him so well, um, I had to have walked with him in a past life. It's just so rich and so deep. And then some of my friends in this lifetime, throughout the years, like in with Jesus in the 90s also, and then even Christian college, some of those people that I've reconnected with, and then even like Sarah and Andy and some of you guys also, having that connection too. I feel like that some of us, we walked with Jesus. We walked with Jesus. Was I one of the disciples? I don't know. And our past lives real? I don't know either, but it does resonate, with me and all of that, like as a past life experience.
I think for me, Andy, like I do feel like a snag in my soul when I breathe into that. And it feels more like, like Dena was saying, to know someone and to walk with someone so deeply, so intimately, and then to see them die for you. To sit with the profundity of that. And like all of that inner turmoil that might come up, like knowing like this is not just, this is not fair, this, I feel a lot of those echoes like in my heart.
I've sat with Mary as well as her son is dying, right? I've sat, I think, with every facet of that disco ball of reality, of possibility. The idea that it's parable, well, it's rich, isn't it? There's lots to sit with and digest. And I don't usually, the snag is a good word, Sarah, right? I don't sit in the anger of, and I don't sit and fuck the patriarchy, and I don't spend too much time feeding that. I just always seek to heal the wound and to bring it back to love. And there's so many angles to sit in.
Yeah.
That are a really good direction back to love and heart.
Always back to love.
Y'all, this has been a beautiful frickin' conversation. Certainly went places that I didn't know it might or would go. The vulnerability that you shared, thank you. Dena, glad you didn't share who you were when you were incarnated with Yeshua. I wasn't going to let you, or else I was going to have to delete it. So thanks for not causing me to need to edit too much. I'll have up links for both of y'all, but is there anything that you would like to offer in closing so that other people might be able to feed and water and nurture their relationship with Christ consciousness, with Yeshua, with Magdalene in the ways that you have?
Feed, water, and nurture yourself.
Girl, I know.
Tend your own garden, and it will all come together.
And treat yourself as that precious divine. Treat yourself as you would, or as Jesus would.
Yes.
Precious.
Yeah. Treat yourself like the bride of Christ. Come on.
I would also, like to challenge you all to sit in the presence of Jesus, to open your heart, and to truly allow Yeshua to show you who he is. And if you're curious of the feminine also, sit, but just ask Yeshua first, ask Jesus first, like sit with that energy, just sit there and allow him to speak and move, and allow him to tell you who he is and to woo you. Allow him to woo you. Allow him to allow him to woo you. It doesn't have to be sexual. I'm not even talking in that, but allow him to woo you. Yeah.
Long saw, y'all.
Thank you, Andy.
Oh,
thank you, Sarah.
I love you both.
Thank you for answering the call with me, because I knew it was a conversation that I wanted to have, and I knew that it was you who I wanted to have it with. And yeah, I hope everybody listening got something out of this that enhances your relationship with the divine in all ways. Thank you, ladies. I love you both.
I love you.
I love you. I love you both.
Well, when Jesus asked me to do this podcast, I wasn't exactly sure where it was going to go, but wow. I made lots of notes because the similarities in it, the invitation back to spirit, well, it's always there, even in places you don't expect. But by consciously working with it, by invoking it to walk alongside you, to participate in life with you, very different. So I know that you love Sarah and Dena as much as I do. Well, maybe not as much as I do, but I'm glad you got to feel the breadth of their wisdom and love, celebrate who they are, as I do every day. So if you want to join us, we're always over at the Halls of Akasa. We do meditations twice a month. And if you're ready to develop more of these relationships for yourself, well, the journey journals are now available. Spirit Guides is the first edition. You have 2 journal options that are just going to be journals, or you have the how-to. I'm so excited that those came through, because that was pure spirit as well. That was lots of places of stillness and not really knowing what was next, but answering the call to yes when it felt like joy in my body. Joy in your body. I hope you find that this holiday season. Places of peace, of stillness, of knowingness of self that don't require any shame or smallening. Happy holidays, my love. See you soon.